Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today on our Go Live session where you get to ask me anything about money. I've had a question come in, I've actually had a couple of questions come in, and the first one is, I'm a 17-year-old and I'm about to start my first job. What advice would you give me? I love that. I can remember when I first started my first job. So what I would definitely do is set up KiwiSaver. Now, at 17, you will need at least one parent or guardian to sign the application form, but definitely set that up and contribute as much as you can. If you can, I would definitely recommend going for 10% of your wage. After all, if this is your first job, the chances are this will be the biggest paycheck you will have ever earned. So you are not going to miss it if you take 10% out of that paycheck immediately and keep that contribution level going through your entire working life. This will set you up amazingly well for the future, and you'll be so far ahead of other people. And that leads on to 16-year-olds as well. So 16 and 17-year-olds can now join KiwiSaver and receive the government's contribution and also the employer's contribution. So the employer's contribution has just increased from 3 to 3.5% as a minimum from the 1st of April. However, like I just said, if you can contribute at least up to 10% of your salary or wage that's coming in, you are going to be on a really good win. The other thing regarding your KiwiSaver that I would recommend is going through and doing a risk profile, making sure that you're actually in the right fund for your level of risk. And you can find these tools just going on to sorted.co.nz, look up tools, and in there you will find an investor profiler tab. That is a great place to start. Now, choosing your KiwiSaver fund, sometimes your employer may have a default scheme that they will automatically enroll you in. If you don't elect your own and your employer doesn't have one, then you will automatically go into the government default schemes as well. However, you can choose your own, and I do recommend doing this. And again, if you go back onto the sorted.org.nz website, there is a tool there that you can actually research different KiwiSaver fund types. So first steps, in my view, would be to do your risk profiler to find out what sort of risk profile you are. Definitely do not do conservative, at least do balanced or above. Even though I don't know you and I don't know your risk profile, given you're only 17, you have got a lot of time on your side, and that's why I would recommend having a good proportion exposed to growth assets. So go through, do that risk profiler, and then you can also, through the Sorted app, go through based on what risk profile you are. If you're a growth investor, then you can narrow down your search by putting in growth funds. And again, you can select from there whether fees are important to you, returns. Just remember though, if you're looking at a fund on returns, that this year's best performer may not be next year's. There's always going to be changes there. And the third category that is classified in that flow chart, if you like, is the service level that you get. And I do personally feel that service level is a very good thing, because after all, you get to talk to people in the industry and that know the ins and outs around KiwiSaver and what can be best for you. So that was a really good question, and I hope that's helped. Just reach out to me if I have left any question marks there. The second question that I've got come in is from someone who said, hey, listen, I'm really struggling with debt at the moment. I've got high fuel costs. Everything seems to be going out of control. Groceries, food, everything is getting a little overwhelming. And I've found myself in debt with credit cards, hire purchase, buy now, pay later, all of those sorts of things. What can I do? That is a really good question as well. In fact, it's a really good segue, because I do have a Take Back Control, a 60-minute webinar coming up on the 28th of April at 10:30. I've included the show notes, in the show notes, I have included a link to that. However, to kick you off, to get you started, there are two methods that I would look at. The first is what we refer to as the snowball method. and that is where you look at you list your debts, if you like, write them down, and write down the amount that's owing on each one. And with the snowball method, you look at the debt that has the lowest amount on it. What you do is you contribute as much as you possibly can to that particular debt and pay it off quickly. The other debts that you've got, you continue paying them, but you just keep paying the minimum. Then when that first debt is gone, you then take that amount you were paying and add that to the second debt, as well as what that minimum contribution is. So it's growing. Picture a snowball rolling down a hill. That's exactly what's happening with the debt in this regard. So that's one method. The snowball method is a great method for psychological impact, for the fact that you can see these debts getting reduced and taken off quite quickly. The other method is called the avalanche method, and that is where, again, you list down your debts. You also write out the side the highest, the rate of interest, and you focus on paying the highest interest rate debt first. So the others you'll leave on the minimum payment. The one that's got the highest interest rate, you concentrate on that one and pay that off with any extra income as quickly as you can. So make additional repayments over and above and still keep paying the minimum on the others. Once that highest interest rate debt has been paid in full, take that amount that you were paying off that one, add it to the minimum of the next highest interest rate debt and pay that one that way. This is called the avalanche method because, again, you picture an avalanche coming down a hill, and it really does gain traction and will help you clear the debts a heck of a lot faster. The avalanche method is going to save you more interest in the long run, which is obviously then going to be beneficial for you. However, both methods work, and it's about which is the right one for you. Like I say, I have got a 60-minute take back control webinar coming up on the 28th of April, and I'd love to see you there because we talk about other tips and tricks. It's not about being restrictive and going without things necessarily. We can look at other tools, or we do have other tools in the session that I'd love to share with you. So it's only $19. It's probably not even a lunch for that week. So come along. Like I say, the link is in the show notes. And I'll just check the chat. And it doesn't look like we've had any other questions come in today, so I will leave it there. Thanks for those two great questions. I hope they've helped. And if you too have any questions regarding your finance, by all means, reach out to me. I'm here to help, and I'm more than happy to jump on to one of these lives and talk about it. Okay, until 2 weeks, we'll take care.